This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was dealing with piles of paperwork and frustrating forms.
And then waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back.
Now Taxes is easily uploading your forms to a TurboTax expert who's matched to your unique tax situation.
An expert who's backed by the latest technology, which cross-checks millions of data points for 100% accuracy. While they work on your taxes, you get real-time updates on their progress, and you get the most money back guaranteed, all while you just go about your day.
No stressing, no worrying, no waiting. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com.
Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at turbotax.com/guarantees.
Recording. I'm turning my volume down a little bit because my Marge Simpson voice is peaking.
Hit him with it, Marge.
Homer, that's not God. That's a waffle.
Paige, I really do like that to fully commit to the bit, you came in with the beehive.
Yeah. And the tube top.
But Paige, I am glad your voice is coming back. Because when we recorded that Step Up episode for Romance in the Pod, I thought it was gone for good.
Thank you for tuning into Horror Virgin. I'm Paige.
And I'm your horror virgin, Todd, which means I don't like scary movies, but this week you guys literally made us watch Orphan First Kill. First time you saw it, question mark?
This is the first time I saw this. Yeah, I waited because I knew we would do it on the show.
Same. I pretty much, since we started this podcast, have seen a pretty healthy diet of just horror movies and romantic comedies. So whenever those are in the theaters, I'm like, I'll see it later. I'm sure I'll have to see it for the show.
I'll have to watch it eventually. Sometimes if it's something I really want to see, like I'm going to go see Nosferatu now that I'm no longer evacuated, but yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, this is my first time with this movie too. Paige, really quick, question right up front.
Uh-huh.
Why is it called Orphan First Kill?
This was my first question too, Todd!
This is not a prequel! I was like, okay.
It is a prequel, but it's not her first kill by any stretch.
I'm sorry. This is a prequel?
Yes, this is a prequel.
It takes place like 13 years after the
original came out. Yes.
Yes, in reality. Like she is pretending in this movie to be younger than the gap of time between the movie's releases.
That's correct.
Insanity.
Well, my beef is that they call it First Kill, but then literally like 2 scenes into the movie, they're like, the last time she killed a whole family. I was like, so this isn't the first. Far from it. In fact, in the first 20 minutes, we see her kill like 3 people.
Yeah.
So it's not her first kill at all.
It can't be her first kill. Like, anyway, so I was very confused as to why it was called that. Because it's the second movie and it starts after she's killed people. I thought maybe we'd get like a flashback to like where the movie actually picks up from like a timeline perspective. But no, that is not how it goes.
Well, no, because you can't flash back because it is a prequel. So this is so remember in the first movie, they're like the last 2
Paige, let me stop you right there.
I know, you don't remember.
No, that was like 2 years ago, hon. I'm so sorry. I have no memory of that movie except
that's fine.
Me, you, and Mikey got into an argument about whether it's appropriate to bone down your wife in a public space when there are children in the home.
Oh, God, that's right. This is the kitchen. Oh, I can't get back into it today. But
there are kids in the home, Paige.
Yeah, I know. Your children are going to be in your home for 18 years, and I'm not going to not fuck for that time. We can't get into it. My voice will not hold up.
I'm not saying you shouldn't have sex. I'm saying you shouldn't have sex in public spaces.
A limited time to before my voice completely gives out.
Just go back to that episode if you want to hear that fight again.
Sure. This movie, in the first one, they reference back. They're like last 2 families and one was a house fire. That's referring to this movie, even though it hadn't happened yet. They created a story around it. But also, you'll remember in the first movie, she does that blacklight painting thing. She learns that in this movie.
Oh my God.
This is a prequel. This is the
Rogue One of the Orphan expanded universe.
I mean, basically.
And I say that because it is my favorite.
It's better than the first one. 100%. That's so crazy.
This movie's nuts. They want me to actually believe that this girl who is being, and I say girl because she's supposed to be playing someone that looks 10 years old, but she looks like a 28-year-old woman who's walking around on her knees.
Entire movie.
It, like 100%. I was like, Gary Oldman in the role of a lifetime. Like, it felt like Tiptoes to me. I couldn't help it. I kept laughing.
It's bad.
Like, you never see her from like head to toe.
No.
That's not shot from behind. So it's obviously like a little girl standing
Like
or
a
whatever.
little girl, yeah.
And then when you see her and like she's walking with them in the scene and you see her from like, I don't know, mid torso up, her shoulders are not moving with her steps.
No.
And it's so clear to me she's being pulled around in a dolly. Every time I saw
Yes.
her like that, I laughed.
Oh, God. For all of you that said, it's wild that they actually made her look like a little girl. No, they didn't. And you should get new eyes. Like, it does not work for the entirety of the movie.
When she's fighting Julia Stiles at the end and they're like actually fighting like on the ground grappling, I'm
Yes.
like, damn, she's like as tall as Julia Stiles is.
Yes.
And like her torso, like when she is like hugging them and they're showing a picture of her hugging, and they do it with both Julia Stiles and the dad. And like, it's just like a grown woman on her knees.
It's a grown
guys.
woman hug.
It is like, it's worse than like Frodo in Lord of the Rings. Like, that's at least a good attempt at this.
Yeah. Well, my favorite is anytime she puts her hand on a man's chest, like in a romantic way, which has happened like twice in this movie. It's a full human, like adult hand.
Yeah.
And you're like, there's just no way to hide it.
I was like, is that an age spot?
Yeah, I don't think the trying to make her look smaller or de-age her worked very well in this movie. I think that's one of the few things that kind of doesn't have going for it.
I think the only thing they did in that was on her face.
Yeah.
They may have made her face look younger. I don't know what this actress looks like in real life.
No, she looks like an adult.
Yeah, this is like, okay, so if her Tinder profile was like, so my name's Esther, I'm 31, but I look young for my age, I would have thought she looks 25.
Sure, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, she looks 25. I don't know. Like,
No,
sure.
yeah.
She doesn't look 10.
No. Here's the thing. When people are children, and she was very young when she did the first movie, that's why it worked, because she basically was.
I think she was like 12 or 13.
Yes. And like, your face changes as you get older. Everyone's does. And it changes in such a way that like, usually it's pretty obvious you're not a child. I would say in this movie, very obvious she's not a child.
Yeah.
It didn't work for me at all.
That only made me love it more. I'm going to be honest with you.
Oh.
I loved it.
I was not on board for this movie. I was bored and upset for the first half.
How dare you?
For the first half. Because for me, I was like, it's the same fucking movie. Like, this is just the same as the last one. Why the fuck should I care? And then when the flip comes and Julia Child's like, I know you're not my daughter because I murdered her. I was like, motherfucker, this movie is great.
First off, now I'm just envisioning that scene as Julia Childs and not Julia Stiles. And her coming in being
Julia
like,
Stiles.
I killed Esther. Anyway, Paige, the Julia Stiles flip of it all, like, I was like, oh shit, this is awesome.
I was like, oh, now I'm fucking here. Now this is Malignant.
Yeah.
And I'm fucking here for it.
Yeah, I loved it. And then it becomes like, who can kill who first?
Oh God, I love.
Yeah.
I was like, like that. What a great way to flip this series, to have it spends the first act in some change. You could absolutely trim it a bit, even though this isn't that short of a movie. It's paced a little weird.
Paige, this is a 98-minute movie. They show you the drive from like the town they live in to their house. Like, they take 4 minutes to get to the house to open the whole movie up. Like, it takes so much time, and you wanted to cut something out of this?
Yes, because literally here's the thing. If I did not have to watch this movie for this show where I have to watch the whole thing, I would have turned it off. Because I'm like, this is the same movie.
Yeah.
This is the same movie.
You got to get to the flip.
But the flip doesn't come until 45 minutes into the movie. That's way too long. That flip should come at 25. Like, why the hell are we waiting that long? And it is to like draw it out so that and part of that also is because once you have that flip, where do you go from there, right? Because then it's such a tense situation, you limit yourself a little bit.
Which is why I think they held it for so long.
I think so, too.
Because once you do the flip, it is like, who's going to kill who first? And that isn't something that's going to take very long to play out.
No. And you can't hide it for that long, right? So like, that I understand why they did it. It is still a frustrating choice, but I get it. I know why they did. That said, I think it's a brilliant flip from the first movie to basically take who we expect. We're coming into this movie having seen the first one. We expect her to be the villain. We know she's the villain. We've watched her kill like 8 people. And we're like, how is she going to kill these people? Because that's what we're expecting. And to then flip it and be like, oh no, she's the one trapped now.
Yeah.
Fucking brilliant.
Loved it.
Yes.
Yeah.
All day long. Give it to me. I am here for it. So as frustrating as the first act was for me, the second act makes up for it because you're just like, hell yeah, bitch. This is nuts.
Yeah, it is really nuts. I loved it. I thought that it is as crazy as calling your movie Orphan First Kill and knowing you haven't shown us her first kill in either of the 2 movies you've made.
In either movie?
That's a dick move. But, Paige.
Yes.
How bad do you feel for every Eastonian security guard? Like, this movie makes them look like shit.
Oh, they all get murdered.
They're laughably bad, though.
Oh.
They're terrible at their jobs.
This movie does contain one of my favorite bad subtitles, though, because at one point it says chuckles in Estonian, and it's when she has gotten to America, and she's just like, ha ha ha, and it just chuckles in Estonian.
I did think it was really funny when she breaks out and she's like on the swing set and the cop comes up and he's like, where are your parents? And then I guess her real name is Lena. And then Lena goes, my real parents are in America or whatever.
Right.
I thought it was really like a dick move for him to be like, yeah, and I have a girlfriend in Canada or whatever.
She's definitely real.
I met her at security guard camp. Anyway, they're terrible security guards. That's my point. Like, they're so bad, Paige.
Well, and that guy was like a real ass cop too. So like,
He was a real ass cop, but that was a joke. Clearly, he actually got her services and helped her out,
Right.
Which means he was an Estonian cop.
yeah.
But also, Gunner's vibe throughout the whole movie is like this rich, elitist idiot who's about to drive his brand new Cybertruck through a car wash. Like, he's so dumb and an asshole. Like, I was so happy. And one of the reasons I like the flip is because you can kill 2 people that are like, oh, great.
Yeah.
Hashtag Esther's justice or whatever. Like, so funny to me.
Yeah, because at a certain point, you're like rooting for her in the movie.
Right.
Which is a bonkers thing to,
I mean, I don't know that you're rooting for her. Like, when they're on the roof, I kind of wanted them both to push each other and then they fall off and it'd be like, ha, 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 ha. It's like they're falling off the building in slow motion.
Like doves, like John Woo wrote it. Yeah, okay.
And then they both hit the stone fence at the same time, and we watch a dual blood spurt from their head. Like, when Julia Stiles dies in this movie, it's out of focus, but graphic.
Oh, her brain pops out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's woof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's my take on the movie. I liked it. I thought it was nuts.
Yeah, I think the second act definitely saves it because
Yes.
that twist is great.
Yeah, I was a little bored until the twist.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with that. But man, I wasn't so bored I would have turned it off, but I definitely was like leaning in after the twist.
Oh, yeah. I guess for me, I was like, in part too, I'm sure some of my frustration with the first act comes from how much everyone hyped this movie up, where they were like, it's amazing. And admittedly, for listener requests this month, this was one of the few times where we had like 4 amazing movies, right? And first of all y'all who voted in Serial Mom, that's a comedy. What's wrong with
Thank
y'all?
you.
And maybe I'm broken because it's like a murderer. And so I guess maybe that makes it horror. I've never felt like that was horror at all.
But I mean, Cocaine Bear was also in there. So like,
That makes sense to me because A, the bear is a lady, and B, a lot of people die and it is very graphic. I felt like they could have done a lot more with the premise. I was not super jazzed about Cocaine Bear. It was okay. But I understand why it got nominated because it is a lady bear.
Lady Who Kills.
And then Last Night in Soho is very clearly on brand. Serial Mom, also on brand, just not really a horror movie.
John Waters, right? Yeah.
John Waters, not gonna argue with it. If it had won, I was absolutely down to do an episode on Serial Mom. Like, don't threaten me with a good time. And this is the one that I was like, really, guys? Like, come on. And for the first like half of the movie, I was like, oh my God, did we pick? Is it basically just the same one? Like, it's the same shit. And I had just finished watching the new episodes of Natalia Grace, and I was just like, ugh, brother. And then the flip came, and I was like, shut the fuck up. What?
I know.
What? That's what we're doing? Okay.
This movie is sort of like every true crime nerd's dream.
Oh, yes.
Like, what would happen if someone in Europe was lying and said they were John Benet Ramsey?
Oh my God, I have so much John Benet Ramsey stuff to yell about during this episode.
I'm not saying John Benet Ramsey's brother killed her, but that is one of the theories, is more or less what plays out in this movie.
Yes, it is one of the theories. It is one I used to ascribe to, and I have heard very compelling evidence for an outside actor, and that is kind of currently where my beliefs lie. But
for me, it's like one of those things I don't have to have an opinion about. Like, I don't know.
I just want to know.
I wasn't there.
I'm just curious.
I wasn't there. Paige, I was not there.
Where were you?
I don't know. I don't even know what year it happened.
Christmas, 1993? 2, 3? Anyway. But yes, I mean, very clearly the person who wrote this movie, I'll say, was familiar with that John Benet theory, because that is absolutely what plays out in this movie. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, if you're not a true crime person, allow me to walk you through the theory right now. Why not? I'll do it very briefly. So there are some that believe, and I would say it is one of many theories. This is a whole big allegedly over this whole thing. There are some that believe that John Benet was killed on accident, and that she and her brother were playing, and in the course of playing, he injured her gravely, and that her mom made the decision that she didn't want to lose both of her children. It was obvious that John Benet was beyond saving at that point, and she didn't want her brother Burke to go to jail, and so they covered it up so that they could have one child instead of losing both.
Which is essentially exactly what Julia Stiles does in this movie. Yeah.
That's what happens in this movie. Yeah.
Or as Paige might call her, Julia Childs.
Julia Childs.
What am I doing in this movie?
But within the John Benet Ramsey story, allegedly John Benet was not injured as much as they thought, and then they had to actually kill her as part of it, because there is evidence to support that she was unfortunately alive when she was garroted. There's like a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. But I mean, that's also like just a theory, man. Like there's also a lot of other theories that involve outside actors and whatever.
Yes.
So like,
yes.
I only reference it because it is exactly sort of the premise of this movie.
Yes.
After the flip, right? That sort of explains Julia Childs and her douchebag son Gunner's motivations throughout the movie.
Yeah, and I think it was wild for Gunner to know about it and be in cahoots with it too. But like that is where that comes from. If you're curious about that, highly recommend. Last Podcast on the Left recently did an update on their John Benet theories.
They did, yeah. It's really good.
And it's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
It's really good. There's also a new documentary that explores a bunch of different options as well. It's not as good. It's okay. But that's just one of the many theories. And clearly one that the writer of this was into, because that is what is in this movie.
Oh, they're also totally a fan of Woody Allen, though, clearly.
Oh, because of a dad getting with his stepdaughter?
Yes, Paige.
Okay.
Yeah. This movie is essentially like Woody Allen, except it's like...
See, except that I feel like he's just being a good dad. The poor guy.
No. I don't think he would actually... I don't think he wants to do it. No, none of that.
No,
I think
not at
that's
all.
what she wants. I think she wants to be Woody Allen, and she just picked the wrong family.
Well, I mean, it is her way. It is her pattern.
Yeah, I mean, and eventually he would have died, like...
Sure.
And I'm not saying from like old age, because she's like 31. He's probably like 48.
Yeah.
50. So, like, that is a big age gap, but, like, she was going to kill him in, like, a year, like, at most.
Yeah. Yes.
Anytime you see Lena without her flippers, you've got to die. It's like when someone who's broken into your house takes their mask off. They're like, oh, you're just going to kill me now.
Right,
Yeah.
because I've seen your face, and you're a tiny little girl that is also a ballerina, but also a vampire. Yes.
Why couldn't they cast that little girl in this movie? Like, at least that would have been believable that she was a girl.
Yeah, that's true.
And not a 31-year-old woman.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe we should just go through this movie scene by scene, Paige.
Yes, we open on Estonia in 2007 on what we thought was an orphanage, but turns out to be a facility for people who have difficulties with their mental wellness and are also violent.
Yeah.
And we watch a woman approach, and she turns out to be the new art therapy person. And they're having her go through like intense security. And they're like, hey, this is
Paige,
we are serious about it.
I think that that's what they want you to believe.
It's theater.
But like the way that security guard like molests her down, suggests
molest me down.
yo, got that loving sound. You're gonna bring Sublime into it? I think John Benet Ramsey heard that song. Like that's how old it is. But Paige, like he pats her down. Like later in this scene, we're gonna find out he's a patient. Like it is like haphazard and just like to touch her in inappropriate places.
Yeah, it's not good.
And also, every security guard in this place sucks.
Yeah, because they immediately are like, oh, Lena's out of her room. We got to lock her down. And I will remind you, Lena is very cunning, and that's the orphan girl. She's very cunning. She's very smart, but she is also very small. And that does limit her abilities to a degree.
I mean, yeah, she is pretty much if Chucky was an American Girl doll.
Right. And with Chucky, you're always like, drop kick it.
Yeah.
Like, it's a doll.
Like, just kick it in the chest. But anyway, so the security locks down the entire building, and they tell the new art teacher or whatever, hey, stay here. Lena's dangerous, so we'll be fine. I'm just going to lock the door behind us and stay here.
Right.
And it's like, it is a really tense scene. I was very scared by it because it's like red flashing for the alarm and like complete darkness.
Yeah.
So it's like things are moving and her eye line is moving and it's just scary. And so like they lock her. My whole point, I guess, about their security team sucking. Exhibit A is this scene.
Yeah, because they lock
her in the room
Yeah.
with the person. They're locking down the building to lock down
fine.
from getting to this room. Like, what are we doing?
Because she's just in there drawing, and it looks like she's going to murder this girl, this art teacher lady, but she's not. She's got a pencil.
Oh, but I think she was going to kill her with that pencil.
I think so too. Yeah, of course.
I think the head dude of this terrible facility is sort of insinuated that the last art teacher got murdered.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Maybe that was the first kill.
Maybe that was. I don't know, but no, because the family's
not. I
before
know
that,
it's
because
not.
he shows her here.
Because she got here after killing people. Paige will never know how that first kill played out.
Never.
And that's what pisses me off so much.
Never. But the doctor like pulls her aside and basically is like, the last lady got killed because she underestimated her. And she's like, you didn't tell me she was a child. And he's like, she's not a child. And that's why she's so dangerous, because she looks like a child. People treat her like a child. She's not a child. She has already murdered one family who took her in as a runaway. And it's implied that that's in Estonia, like not the one we saw.
Right.
And that they took her in as a runaway and now she lives here. They all died. And then she probably killed that other art teacher. But we cut to the next day where she's in like an art class and she has a little candy and like triggers another patient.
Yeah.
Who then runs at basically her and then tackles the security guard. But this is absolutely her testing the waters to see if she can make that part of her escape.
I mean, she immediately uses this.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is the moment, and we don't see her priming the pump for how she actually gets out of her room, but I think this is the moment when she realizes, okay, I now have a plan for the security guard at the front door. That's all the guards. I can get out now.
Right.
And so she puts that plan in motion.
She does. And we cut to her in her room watching like a Shirley Temple movie. And someone comes to the door to deliver her a package. We will find out it is the ribbons to cover her wrists and neck.
Yeah.
And they put them through the little slot. And then she says, I can't tie them on my own. Can you help me? Now, it is a guard delivering this when he shouldn't be. And it's very clear that this is a guard that potentially has some proclivities.
I think that's very clear, Paige. She like invites him into her cell. And I think it's very heavily implied that he thought that was going to go a very different way because he's a terrible security guard. Like, there is a camera in the cell.
Yeah.
Like, best case scenario, he's a perv who's about to get fired and be put in jail.
Right,
like,
right.
That's like, this dude's an idiot.
Yeah, he dumb. And she immediately murders him. She gets on a chair to basically kiss him, but instead smashes his head into the wall until he is dead.
Yeah.
She then grabs his key card. She has a backpack prepped. She gets out.
I think that was in the bag that he gave her, right? Or in the presents that he gave her.
No, it was on his belt.
That's right.
She took it off his belt. But she does something really smart is she waits for other people to go through the doors. And so she's only opening doors when other people are opening doors.
Yeah.
Very smart.
This is like watching her escape a haunted house, sort of, because like she's running past, quote, crazy people's rooms. It's like she's breaking out of Arkham Asylum in a stealth game.
Right.
So like occasionally she'll be like next to a window by like a patient's room or whatever. And then like they'll pop out of the dark and scream. And yes, I did like, when it happened, because it's scary, guys. I hate jump scares so much.
I was too concentrated on like, okay, who's opening this door? And then she's opening this door. I was too concentrated on the plan.
I also am the kind of guy who like when this stuff is going on, I'm like bump ba bump ba bump 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 ba bump ba bump 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 ba bump ba bump bump, because it's like very biddly-doo, biddly-doo, like she's sneaking around. Esther, like I thought it was great. It was like really cute. It's like an actual 10-year-old girl shot from behind because our person doesn't look like the actress playing Lena is probably in real life 28.
Yeah. And if we could see her from the front, it would look like Alyssa Edwards when she was doing that like dangerous woman thing around the workroom. And like they clearly just have a little girl in a coat, just like running around. But she gets out to the last guard at the front door and triggers that other patient with the candy.
Because she's out there doing like maintenance. I think she's like mopping or something.
Mopping.
The other girl.
But she murders that guard like brutally.
Because what? This guard doesn't have a plan for the patient in the room. Like, I lost my mind that like this guard allowed this to happen, but he gets killed here. Yeah.
He gets killed. She gives that patient the candy. She runs out of the parking lot where the art teacher is trying to leave, and she stands right in front of her car, and then she like gets out to look, and then she's gone. And I'm like, she's in that car.
Of course she's in that car.
Absolutely in that car.
Doesn't the teacher actually like go in and say to the guy who runs the facility like, this job isn't for me?
Yeah, this job isn't for me.
Which like I would fully quit immediately after the security team locked me in the room with the person they were trying to secure me from. I'd be like, oh, this is not a safe place for me to be.
Yeah. And so she comes back out. She gets in her car and like goes to go into her house.
Oh my God. That means she goes in after Esther. What?
Yeah.
She goes in after Esther kills people.
Yes.
And is like already in her car. So Esther's just like in her trunk like, did this bitch forget something? God, I guess I'll just wait longer.
Yeah.
I guess her name's not Esther yet. Her name's Lena. Sorry. Yeah.
Lena. But yeah. So she gets home and goes to open her apartment door and hears her hatchback pop. And I'm like, you not going to check that out? You not going to check that out? Like,
she does check it out. You know what I would do? Run the fuck away.
Yeah,
I certainly wouldn't unlock the key to the mansion that I own on a art teacher therapist salary. I was like, I gotta move to Eastonia if an art therapy teacher can own all this. Like, it's not awesome. Her house is like open, vast. It's got like a piano in it. Like, we don't value education like that in the States. That's all I'm saying.
I think it's really funny that you keep pronouncing it like Eastonia, like Onia, but in the East instead of just Estonia.
Yeah, Eastonia, whatever.
Eastonia.
Yeah, I'm just going to say it the way I say it.
There you go. Anyway, so while she goes to check the hatchback, Lena's already in the house, which seems impossible, but fine.
Because she unlocked the door before she checked the trunk. Like, what are you doing?
I know, but she would have had to like pass in front of her. Anyway, like, there's no way you wouldn't have noticed that.
Oh, I'm not saying it's possible. I'm saying it's dumb. Like on the teacher's part. I honestly would just like, I guess my trunk's open and lock the door behind me.
Done. Yeah, I'm going to call the cops about it.
Exactly.
Anyway, she goes to open the door to the apartment and Lena's inside and just stabs her. Or doesn't stab her. She gets her with a
tire iron.
Like a tire iron. Yeah, like immediately.
But like as she gets hit and starts falling down, she was like, should have moved to Westonia.
Yeah, I hear Westonia is great. In Westonia, born and raised.
On a swing set is where I spent most of my days. Chilling out, Max, and relaxing so cool. And then a police officer came up to me outside of the school. Sorry. Please cut all of that, babe. I'm so sorry.
No.
I don't love it. I don't love it at all.
Leave it all in.
I'm going to get sued, but not by who you expect. Jazzy J is quite litigious. Paige, you pour sparkling grape juice like it is the finest.
I saw that you finally got to have some Martinellis. How did that go for you?
I didn't get any, actually.
What?
It was drank. I sent a picture of, it was my mom's 70th, so we had this big event for my mom's 70th. And Natalie and I were dealing with some family issues, and we missed some stuff.
Oh,
and that
fuck,
was one
that's
of the
right. You
things
didn't
we
get to
missed.
go.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. No, I mean, we did get to go. Like, we were there, but we were dealing with some stuff, and we missed some stuff because we were just like in a room talking, having moments, you know, like coming to terms with like what was happening. And so like we missed some stuff.
I'm sorry.
But people loved it.
It's delicious. Anyway, so Lena goes down into the apartment, cleans up, has some wine, goes on the missing persons website, gets some information, is like, I look enough like that girl. Let's go. And then she goes to leave, and Anna, the art teacher's still alive, and she's like, oh, it usually only takes once, and then just beats the shit out of her. So that lady dead.
I did think it was funny that she like cleaned up. She played piano. Like she was just like having a grand time in this house, did some CSI investigation of like people she could become, and then changes, gets ready to go, and then kills this lady again, and now has blood all over her.
All over.
So she should have been like, shit, I got to change again.
Yeah.
Like,
Anyway, now here's something I thought was kind of smart, because there was a part of me that was like, take the car. Like, you have a car.
well, yeah, but she needs to get arrested in like a way that makes her seem, not arrested even, but like taken into police custody in a way that makes her seem like childlike, honestly. So like hanging out on a playground swing set
Right,
until the
right.
cops come to check on you sort of makes sense.
Yeah. Well, because she knows that she looks like a child, and that's she has to leverage that.
Yeah.
And so the police officer's like, where are your parents? And she's like, America. And he's like, all right. Cut to Darien, Connecticut, which was our first indicator that these people were going to be rich assholes.
Yeah. Like this is not their first house.
Yeah. And then we cut to their son's fencing tournament, where I was like, oh my God, is that Julia Stiles?
No, you weren't.
It was Julia Stiles.
By the way, Darien, Connecticut is one of the wealthiest towns in the U.S. The average, this is not like the high, the average household income is over $350,000. Darien and Greenwich combined have a population of 12,500 millionaires, which is an 84% increase. Oh, man. Yeah. Anyway, it's one of the wealthiest places in the U.S.
Anyway, they're at the thing, and they like go to leave the fencing, and their son is like, I'm gonna go hang out with my friends, and the dad was like, I thought it was family night. She's like, just let him hang out with his friends. But the dad is clearly a shell of a man.
Yeah, he's a soft, like, rich man, fail son painter who, like, is pretty good at painting, and that's what he's chosen to make his life about. But either he or Julia Stiles' family are insanely wealthy. In fact, maybe both of them are.
I think it's her. I don't know if it's him.
I don't know either. I got the vibe it was her too, because he doesn't really want to go hang out with a bunch of elitist millionaires or whatever. So like
he doesn't. And when she's like, hey, you could get back out there, and he's like, oh, are we in trouble? Do we need money?
and she's like, not remotely.
Not remotely. Yeah.
We're rich.
Which for me, that was more of a question of somebody who like would have to be conscious about if they need money.
Yes. No, I got that vibe too. It's never like explicitly said though, but yeah, I got that vibe too.
Yeah. Anyway, as they're going home, and they get into kind of an argument, and she's like, Esther's not coming back, okay? Like, I miss her too, but she's not coming back. But who should show up? The detective that's like, spoiler, she coming back. And so now this was something that I thought was interesting, because Julia Child, God damn it, I'm going to do it the whole time.
Just let's lean into it. It's just Julia Childs, and in my mind, it's actually Miss Doubtfire. That's who I'm picturing.
Honestly, a very similar sound to Julia Child.
That is essentially who I channeled for my terrible impression earlier.
Bon appetit. But we cut to Russia, where Julia Stiles goes to pick her up alone. And I was like, why wouldn't the dad go too? And I bet she engineered it some way to figure out to like not have him there.
Man, I don't know, because why wouldn't she just kill that girl
or just
be
say,
like, that's not my daughter? Like,
yes,
well, I'm not bringing her back. Like, I don't know about that. I mean, you might be right. And like, I wish we had seen that if that was the case, because it's nuts that he's not there, because they have a private plane. It's not like he's got warrants and can't leave the country. So like, there's no reason.
There's no reason he's not there.
A dad who lost their daughter 4 years ago, who had just been possibly rediscovered and has like a chance to be reunited with his daughter is not going to go do that. And it's not like he doesn't have the means. She took a private jet to Moscow.
Yeah, yeah.
So they could have just flown together. There were more seats on the plane, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, same. I had all of these same questions. The other thing, because this was recent, this only came out like 2 years ago, a year ago.
22. Yeah, it was 2022.
So like 2 years ago.
Yeah, a little over. Yeah.
This has happened so many times where people have come back and claimed to be a missing person. And then there's questions about whether or not they are.
I mean, there are other movies about that.
Oh, yeah.
Like The Changeling or whatever.
It has happened on record. Like there are multiple cases and documentaries. This has happened multiple times.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would not immediately do a DNA test.
Well, they sort of do it like a very low rent version of that in this, in a fingerprint test.
Which I have issues with that.
Which you could do that.
No, not the way he's doing it, but we'll talk about it.
I mean, when you like hold two fingerprints over each other up to the light, that doesn't automatically put it into CODIS or whatever.
Yeah.
Like they show in this movie.
That's not even my first problem. There's so many problems with the fingerprints.
Like, why do they have her fingerprints on file? She was 6.
That's another part. That's not even the worst part. It's the problems start before then, and we'll get to it when we get to it. Anyway.
All right.
This is 2007, which means it's not as prominent, but Maury exists. Like,
oh yeah, DNA evidence was a thing in 2007. Like,
yeah.
They could have been like, Alan, you are not the father.
And then he would just sad dance across the stage. But most of the cases in which people have pretended to be somebody's loved one and it turned out not to be them, part of the reason it persists is because the family refuses to get DNA testing because they don't want to believe that it is not that person. And in this case where it's like, you aren't even sure it's her yet. Like, you should test some stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if 23andMe was out, but it was about to be, if not. So, like, that's an easy way to tell. Moscow's a really long flight. I'd be like, hey, can you have her spit into a cup and just like test that and then send it over to my guy and I'll spit in a cup too. And then I'll see if I want to fly 16 hours over to the cow. You know what I'm saying? That's so far away.
It's far.
No, hon, you don't want to go. I got this. I can't believe she didn't let her husband go.
Well, yeah, but also I feel like she knows it's not true. Anyway, like, I think she's maybe going to like check her out.
Yeah, it's also real dumb. What she should have done is taken the plane to Moscow, gotten dinner, gotten back on the plane and been like, it wasn't her.
It wasn't her, yes.
She causes her own death because she's an idiot.
Well, here's what I think her goal and thinking is for this. It's not good, but here's what I think it is.
Sure.
Because he's so devastated by the loss of their child and the fact that their child is missing, not like confirmed dead, that I think she's like, okay, well, if I go over there and she looks close enough, maybe I'll bring her back and we'll make it work, right? It's been 4 years. Obviously, she's going to be different, you know.
Yeah.
And because she knows it's not her the whole time, I think that's why she dropped the hint about the bird, Sydney. Like, she I don't think she knew that the bird was different, and I think it was a mistake they both made, you know, or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I do think she's like, in that scene, a little exasperated afterwards, and she's like, all macaws are parrots, but not all parrots are macaws, you idiot.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I said macaws, but I don't know. I'm not a parrot guy.
Yeah, macaws.
Oh, I guess macaws are just from Estonia.
Anyway, but so she brings her home and they're like, you got to be prepared for changes or whatever. And at first she doesn't like run to hug her, but then she does. They get on the private jet. And she's like showing them her pictures of like, you remember all these people? Because secretly, this is Julia Stiles being like, pull this shit off, please. Like,
yeah, study up.
Yes.
We got a test in the morning.
Right. Oh my God. Which like, once you've seen it once, then you're like, oh my gosh, she's like trying to help her.
Yeah. Once you know the twist, it does seem different.
It's crazy. But they land, and this is where, like, she goes to meet the family, and she's like, do you think he'll recognize me? And this is where it says chuckles in Estonian. And I'm like, she just laughed. Like, what is this?
I do, honestly, if you've ever heard a good Estonian chuckle, they're significant. You can tell.
Diamonds in the rough.
They're like, damn, I brought out the Estonian.
Yeah. None of that Westonian nonsense.
Only the Estonian. I had a friend from Estonia. He'd be so mad at me right now. I'm so sorry. It's been a long day.
I'm exhausted. I'm super sick still. It's just... but I am back in my house. Woo!
I know, same. Yeah, we got back from the funeral today.
That's why I'm drinking all this Martinelli.
I do love when you drink Martinelli's like straight from the bottle. You're like, it's like Paige is at a club and like got bottle service for the entire club. Like that's what she looks like when she's throwing it back in her craft room with yarn, shelves full of yarn behind her.
I love my life and I have no regrets. Anyway, so the dad, Alan, is instantly like so excited. Like it changes his whole world in an instant.
Yeah, I do think he like, sort of reacts like a dad who misses his daughter because he doesn't know he killed her.
You mean he doesn't know they killed her?
No, he doesn't know he killed her. I said that because the other two react like people who know they killed Esther.
Oh, right. Sorry. The way you phrased that, I was like, he didn't have anything to do with it.
I know. That's why he reacts like a dad who didn't kill her.
Yes. But the way you phrased it sounded like he killed her. And I was like, no.
Let's check the tape, guys. I don't think it did. I don't know. It was so long ago. He sort of reacts like a dad who misses his daughter because he doesn't know he killed her. Anyway,
yeah, because the other two are like, and Gunnar is like immediately not having her, basically.
Oh, I honestly thought Gunnar knew immediately. Like there was something that maybe she didn't have like a mole or something. I didn't think he killed her at that moment.
There is a mole that like...
I did see that too. Yeah, that's why I thought like it was going to be something like that. But it's not. Gunnar killed her earlier, and that's why he knows that's not her because his real sister's dead.
Right. But the dad doesn't know, and everyone's keeping up the charade for dad.
Right. Which is why he reacts like he doesn't know he killed her.
Right. So they get home to their castle where they have a whole...
It's not quite a castle, but it's like castle adjacent.
It's a castle.
It's like a house so big that at the end when it's burning down, you're like, oh, I bet they did have time to, after the fire started, climb onto the roof. And to have two of the main characters die, and then to have her climb back down and change, and then walk out of there.
It's also a stone house that's gonna burn slower.
It took like 40 minutes for it to burn down.
You know what? Triggered.
Too soon, guys.
How dare y'all?
Too soon to feature houses burning down.
Too soon. But the movie very clearly is like, you drive up to this giant castle. It's like they're rich, and then you walk inside, and on the mantle there's a ton of Fabergé eggs, and it's like, did I mention rich?
Paige, they took a private jet to Moscow.
Oh, yeah, I know.
They're rich.
They're so rich.
She says they're a Mayflower family, which means they've been living off exploited labor for like 200 years.
Yeah, I know.
Like at the end of this movie, when they die, I was like, nice.
Yeah.
I actually kind of felt bad for Alan now that I think back on it because he probably is just like the guy who married up financially and was like happy to be a kept man.
Yep.
And was like, man, this is way better than shooting b-ball with my friends Will Smith and Jazzy J back in Philly in the day.
Outside of school.
So like, man, I got lucky, didn't I? Oh shit, I died.
Oh no. No, my Fabergé eggs.
They make the best scramble.
Well, for a hot second, because on Riverdale, they're Glamourgé eggs, which is so dumb.
How do you always find a way? It's amazing. Like it's basically a free space in a bingo horror virgin drinking game.
Yes.
That you're going to bring up Riverdale.
I will, or True Blood, or Outlander. It's fine. I watch a lot of TV. But they're Glamourgé eggs. So for a hot second as I watched it, I was like, Glamourgé. No, what's the real name? Fabergé.
What's the real name?
Anyway, they get her set up in her room and they like, she kind of goes to bed. That next day they go to the doctor, the therapist.
Yeah.
And she's like looking at that bird and I was like, that bird is toast. Like
I thought she was going to strangle or bite that bird in half or something. I did not know. I thought the same.
Yeah, but not. It's fine.
But no, she does get up and she's like, oh, I remember this bird. It's like Sebastian or whatever. I can't remember the name. Sydney. Okay, whatever. In my mind, it was Sebastian and it sounded just like the crab from Little Mermaid. But Esther is like talking to the bird like she knows it, more or less. Like she recognizes it. And Paige, how are you already filling up more Martinellis? You just drank. Okay, I think you may have a problem. You filled up a glass and then took a big drink from the bottle.
Yeah.
How much are they paying you, Paige?
I'm on the Martinelli's take. Yeah. As in I take Martinelli's and I'll drink it.
Absolutely.
I'm celebrating that all my walls are standing, and the only thing bad is that my porch is pretty ashy.
Martinelli's. When you want to celebrate the inevitable, Martinelli's.
Martinelli's. My porch covered in ash, and outside smells like barbecue chips. So
it's a win-win.
yeah, honestly, outside smells delicious. I know I shouldn't be smelling it. I have the air purifiers on. That's fine. Anyway, so the therapist is immediately like,
That's not Sydney, you dumb bish. Like, she's on to her immediately, kind of.
You don't remember my bird?
Yeah.
You were gone for 4 years in a traumatic kidnapping event, and you don't remember my bird?
That is really shitty, honestly. Yeah, you know what? I don't remember your bird, therapist. But I mean, I guess, like, she does play it up like she does know that bird. Like, she played with that bird as a child, and it's like a core memory
Yeah.
for her.
She and that bird went to high school.
Yeah. She's like, know this bird. It owes me 20 beaks.
Oh, God.
I honestly am just picturing a scene where it's her talking to a line of parrots about how many Nazi beaks it expects from them as it goes into, I don't know, macaw Nazi Germany.
Yeah. She's just carving swastikas into their heads.
Coming this summer, Inglorious
bird
Macaws.
sturds. Or bast birds. Anyway, the therapist be suspicious.
Yeah.
Because of inconsistencies. And she kind of senses that this is going to happen. So she creates a diversion in the waiting room where she like spills the receptionist coffee. There's another kid there. She says that he hit her and pulled her dress.
Yeah.
So they get to leave. Meanwhile, they get home and Gunner's friends pull up and they're all assholes.
Yeah. I mean, they're Mayflower families. They're like elite rich, like 1% rich.
Yeah.
So they are what you would expect them to be.
Yeah. But her dad comes out and he's like, hey, I thought you might want to come to the studio with me because she says she likes to paint. And he's like, great, we have that in common. And then she's like, what are all the lights for? And he's like, oh, you forgot what I'm famous for. And there's like a pause. And I was like, oh God, he's Thomas Kincaid. But no, he just does cool blacklight paintings, which there was a girl I follow on TikTok. She doesn't really do this that much anymore. She does other things, other crafty things. But one thing she was doing for a while was blacklight paintings where she would put all of her paint in a box and shake it up and then turn on a blacklight so she couldn't see what colors were what, and then try to paint something just random pulling colors and try to like make it work and then turn the blacklight off and see what it ended up looking like. And sometimes it was kind of cool. Like it was never what you expected, but that was kind of fun. Cool blacklight paintings.
Yeah.
Different colors do different things. Anyway, she has him sit down and she draws him and he's like, this is incredible. Like, this is amazing.
And it is pretty good for a 10-year-old.
Yeah, it's pretty good for a 31-year-old, frankly.
It's way better than I could do. And yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but they kind of bond over painting and spending time together in the studio. Meanwhile, she's kind of like listening in on the mom on the phone and she's planning like a gala and she's like, bring your checkbook. Like, he's not going to be there tomorrow. Don't worry about it. And while this is happening, Julia Stiles is like watching her in the studio. She's watching Julia Stiles. It's like they both know, but they don't know yet.
They both know, but they both haven't talked about it yet.
Right.
Man, the flip. I lost my mind. Okay, yeah, we're almost there. We're almost there, guys.
We're almost there. Yeah, there's not a ton happens in this movie. It does move pretty fast once you...
It's a 98-minute movie.
Once you get to the flip, it is full speed ahead.
Yeah.
But so Julia Stiles is like looking around in her room and tries to look at her little Bible thing. And she's like, no, that's mine. Don't you knock. And so she hides it. She finds Esther's diary and starts like learning from the diary.
Yeah. Learns to call Julia Stiles mummy.
Meanwhile, the detective, like the next day, shows up and is like, welcome home. And she's immediately suspicious of the detective. And he's like, let's have a group discussion with the therapist tomorrow. And she like goes to fill her glass to like listen in, but to have a reason to leave the room, comes back, didn't fill it. And she's like, oh, he's on to me.
Yeah.
So she robs the house and makes a little ratatouille friend.
She does. Oh, I felt bad for what happens to that rat.
I did feel bad for that rat because like if he had been in Julia Childs' house, his, whole outlook could have been different. He could have been controlling the heads of one of the best chefs in America. Anyway, she takes a bunch of stuff. She goes to leave, but she sees the black light on and off in the studio, knowing that Alan is painting. And she
Yeah.
kind of looks back at him and is like, oh, I'll stay for a while because she caught the feels.
Yeah, she's like,
Oh.
I cannot wait to marry my stepdad.
Yeah.
I thought it was nuts. Like, she meets a guy and a day later she's dignitized. Like, you painted him once.
I know. But here's the thing. He's kind of like beardy and he's cute. I would, you know what? Yeah.
And honestly, she is 31. Like, I
She's
kind of got why
31.
she wasn't super into the son.
I mean, yeah.
She's probably closer in age to the dad.
Yeah. And also, like, now here's the thing. She's had to live as a child most of her life, so she hasn't grown out of her dating artist's face.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
I love our little Martinelli's breaks where you just like take
Me
a
too.
big drink deep from the bottle.
If you had tasted it, you would understand.
I couldn't because my wife's, yeah.
You can. They're at every grocery store.
I have a firm policy when it comes to Martinelli's, and it's that Martinelli's will just have to find me in the moment.
I'm going to like force you to drink it at Panic Fest or something like that.
They call it Fate and Nelly's. It has to be predetermined,
Oh.
and then I'll drink it.
All right. So her parents are going to go to the gala, and dad decides to go with the mom because he's like, don't worry about it. Like, she'll be fine with Gunnar. It'll be fine. Like, whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, if Gunnar hadn't killed real Esther, probably would have been fine. You know,
Yeah.
he's probably like I think he says he's 16, right?
Yeah.
So that's probably old enough. Like a 16-year-old can watch a 10-year-old, I would assume.
Yeah,
I'm not a
100%.
parent, so it's not my call, but like whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought it was a really nice gesture because the husband has clearly been like really sad
Yeah.
since his daughter got murdered by his wife and son, but he doesn't know about that.
Right.
But gone missing, quote unquote, right?
Right.
And he is now trying to make more of an effort to be active participant in the marriage that he's in. I think it's a really sweet gesture.
Yeah.
That he does here. And because he like walks over, and this is, we sort of alluded to this earlier, Paige, but this is the scene where he says, I don't mind hanging out with a bunch of millionaire assholes if it gets me to be closer to you, or, you know, if it's something that you want to do, like that's fine. I'm happy to help. And so he like goes, and they go to this gala. It's so good. As Paige poured the last drop into her cup, she licked the top of the Martinelli's bottle like it was, I'm just going to say, Henry Cavill's balloon knot.
I claimed the Martinellis as mine. Also,
Is that how you do it?
yeah, there you go. Congrats to Henry Cavill and his lady. They just had a baby.
Aw, congrats.
Congrats to them.
Yeah. How could you?
How dare you?
No, honestly, that's awesome. Congrats, guys. That's amazing.
I hope they're very happy.
Yeah.
So, but he's like, how long will it take you to get ready? And she's like, oh, I'm fast. So they actually have sex before they leave. Good for them.
They don't have sex, Paige. They get orphaned blocked.
Oh, orphan blocks.
And this, okay, I really did feel like this solves kind of a debate because I do think we can come to an agreement on this. The door was closed.
Yes.
I don't think they should have had to have locked their door. You know what I'm saying? Like,
No,
you
yeah,
should knock
yeah.
before entering.
Yeah.
So, like, I thought you and I would definitely be aligned on they're well within their rights to bang in their own room.
Of course. Well, and they have a teenager, and Esther's supposed to be probably 10 or 11.
I think she's supposed to be 10. I think they say she's supposed to be 10.
Yeah. Kids at that age are mostly kind of doing their own thing.
Right.
Like,
yeah, that's what I was
you
saying.
know?
I mean, obviously, Esther's 31. Her name's Lena, and she really wants to give it to not Woody Allen. Sorry, her dad, Alan.
yes.
His name is Alan.
Is Alan. Anyway, they go to the party. They leave. Gunnar is an asshole and has like a fire pit and all his friends over and has a party, and she's inside looking at it and he's not including her. And so she then shows up outside and is like, what was that about a girl that like dresses like Lizzie Borden? Like, oh, what? Go fuck yourself. And they're like, what the fuck?
I did love that.
What the fuck this little bitch tell us to do?
But Gunnar already knows she's not really Esther. So he's like,
Yeah.
okay, who the fuck is this?
Yeah, who are you? Why? Like, I don't give a shit, right? But who should show up but the detective? And he's like, oh, yeah, I just gotta, try the bathroom, whatever. This is where my problem with the fingerprints starts. Okay.
Because he picks up the extended play with his ungloved hand.
No, that is also a problem, though. But the extended play, the EP,
The record, whatever it is. I don't know if it's an EP
record.
or an LP. I don't care.
this is my problem. How do you Todd, I assume you've put a record on a record player, yes?
Yeah, occasionally.
How much do your fingertips touch it?
Oh, and also never on the actual thing, right? You're never going to get a thumbprint on the paper that is in the middle of a record. Yeah, you're right.
You can't get any usable fingerprints off a record. You touch the edges. At best, you'll have edge prints, but not any on the actual grooves. Like, what are you doing?
Well, and you couldn't get fingerprints off of the record itself because it is
Right,
grooved.
because it has grooves.
The fingerprint he pulls is from like the paper inside, which her hands, because they're
Couldn't
10-year-old's
touch
hands,
'cause
could not
they're
get
small.
there. You're right. Yeah.
Oh, God. I was like,
That's awesome.
You could literally pick up anything else in this room. Like, literally any other object is a better shot for a fingerprint than this fucking thing. Like, what are you doing? Because he does pick it up and take it with him, right?
Yeah. He steals it.
He steals it.
Also, never invite a cop in your house. It's always vampire rules.
Yeah.
Like, unless they have a warrant, they can't come in unless you invite them in. So don't do that.
Yeah. Don't do that. She stows away in his car. It's what she do. The parents come home. She's missing, but Julia Stiles takes this chance to like look at the little Bible thing she has, and she's like, oh, pictures of other men. Okay. Interesting.
She's got a type, but also learns that she's like from Estonia and like enough to know that she's like a criminal con artist kind of thing.
Right. Meanwhile, the detective is basically using a fingerprint kit at home to pull a print off a thing that is unprintable. And not to mention, fingerprint matching is not as ironclad of a science as people think it is.
Or as DNA is.
I mean, DNA is way more than fingerprints.
That's what I just said.
Oh, sorry. The phrasing was weird. It sounded like you were saying DNA is also not ironclad. So, fingerprints, not that ironclad. DNA would be, right?
Yeah.
Which he could have. There's a hairbrush lying around, probably. Like, he could have. Anyway, he's got the album. He manages to lift a fingerprint off a place where one would not be. And she's like watching him do it. And he like scans it in and matches it. And it's like not a match. And he's like, huh? And again, why was she fingerprinted as a 6-year-old? Or whatever.
Yeah, like why was she in the system, I guess? Like, do you fingerprint children? I don't know because I don't have any, but...
I mean, you do. You can. I was fingerprinted as a child.
Yeah, you got priors, though.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, why would you fingerprint a 6-year-old? Maybe I don't have kids, so I don't know. Maybe you would.
So, in the late 90s, there was a push to make your kids super identifiable so that if they were kidnapped or went missing, police could more easily find and identify them. It's part of the satanic panic of like widespread panic about kids going missing. And so there were a lot of things like this. So a lot of people fingerprinted their kids at the time. But again, your kids' hands are really small. So like as you get older, you'd have to be re-fingerprinted anyway. But there's also like, ID cards or pictures. So there's a really funny thing where Blockbuster sponsored identification videos for kids at the time. So that if your kid got kidnapped, you had their most recent photos, but you also had them on video of like, this is what they looked like this year, basically.
Right.
And the reason I know this is because friend of the show, Blaine Gibson, found the copies of that his parents had as he was digitizing all the family videotapes and like has his on record. But I could understand having fingerprints in that context, I guess. I know if you ever notarize anything, you fingerprint people, but I can't imagine she owns property.
She's 6.
I know.
At the time, right?
At the time.
Yeah.
Or maybe they pulled prints off some of her other items when they first investigated.
Maybe that could be.
That's the most likely explanation, I think, probably.
Yeah.
Anyway, but he's looking, he's like, it's not a match. And it's almost like he hears her behind him because he grabs the gun, but he doesn't like turn to look around.
No, but he does say, who are you?
Yeah, if you're not Esther, who the hell are you? And she stabs him before he can finish the sentence because he didn't bother to like turn around even though he heard footsteps.
And also he, after making the sandwich or whatever, stabs the knife into the cutting board like it's the last time he expects to use it.
I know, just ruining his cutting board. Anyway, he grabs the knife, stabs him, but he's not quite dead. because he eventually gets shot.
Yeah. I lost my mind at that moment.
Oh.
Because I was like, oh my God, who has a gun? Because you only know she has a knife, Esther.
And he has a gun and he's not near it, right?
Right. Well, and you assume he's dead. He got stabbed like 9 times in the spine. You don't really live after that.
Right. So Julia Childs grabs the gun off the table and off his desk and shoots him. And at this point, my question was like, what? Why is she shooting him?
Right.
And she just says, this is all I ever do anymore. Cleaning up after my kids.
I know.
But at this point, she's like, I know you're not Esther. Don't worry about it.
They have like a sit-down meeting over this dude's dead body. It is a nuts scene. I loved it, though. It was great because it's like, I'm in shock, honestly, a little bit because I did not expect this turn at all for me.
Not at all. And she's just like, wait, so you're a 31-year-old woman? Wow, that's fucked up. Anyway, so I helped cover up my daughter's accidental death because my son accidentally killed her. And what she says is like Gunnar was always too rough with her and he went too far. And she somehow was gravely injured and they had to finish it and basically hide that she passed away.
Yeah.
But she says, she's like, look, when my husband found out that maybe Esther wasn't dead, like his whole life changed. He lit up. It was amazing. And I refuse to let you destroy that. So we're all going to play our part. And she also was like, we're a Mayflower family. We matter. He doesn't know this happened. He doesn't need to know it happened. You get to enjoy being fancy and being a part of this family.
Yeah.
And we get to enjoy basically having our dad be happy. Great.
Yeah. She essentially did hit like the rich person jackpot, kind of.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, obviously they're not going to keep a 31-year-old con artist around. So she is always, like afraid they're going to kill her, rightfully so.
Right. So she helps her dispose the body and the gun and they write an email from his computer and then trash the computer.
And the email is like, Dear Sergeant, I'm taking my vacation from now until forever. I am not dead. Bye.
Yeah, basically.
And then they go dump his body. And as they're dumping the body, Esther's like, is that where the real Esther is?
And she's like, don't say her name. And it's like, okay.
And she's like, no, we baked the real Esther at a 350 degrees for 80 minutes with like a nice balsamic vinaigrette. It was great.
It was delicious. You should have been there.
Because she's Julia Childs, guys. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're afraid of butter when you're disposing of a body, use cream. So they go back to the house and they kind of like let her go back to her room or whatever. And it was like, oh yeah, no, she was on her bike. I found her. Everything's cool now. And then Gunnar kind of confronts his mom, like, what the fuck? And he's like, okay, she knows and we know. And here's what's going to happen. And he's like, so are we just going to let her like, what does that mean? She's like, it means don't underestimate her. And he's like, so we just have to live with her. And she's like, well, we can't kill her. She just got back. Like, that's way too soon. It's super suspicious.
Yeah.
He's like, so she owns us now? She's like, no, this is mutually beneficial. We both have to capitulate.
Yeah, she has as much to lose as we do in this whole thing. So she's going to play along.
Right.
But I think the mom is always planning on killing her because, that's what she do.
Of course. She is going to make her disappear again no matter what.
Right.
But this is where she's like, okay, we have the meeting with the psychiatrist tomorrow, so you and I are going to go over some fucking flashcards. Let's go. And she kind of preps her on all of their like Christmas in Paris and Yellowstone. And it's like too many details, to be honest.
It is too many details. When she actually says it in the therapy session, it's like so clear she wasn't there. But Alan's a big old dummy.
Yeah.
So like he doesn't know.
He doesn't know. But this is where the mom is like, your favorite color is pink and this is what we're going to wear. And like, this is how we're going to do this. And as she's kind of like getting ready to go to bed, Gunnar passes her door and comes in and he's like, hey, I know who you are. You're fucking 30. You don't belong here. You're never going to be ours. I fucking own you. And she slaps him and he's like, I'll kill you like I killed Esther. And he basically is like, what are you going to do about it? Who do you think the police are going to believe? And he's absolutely right.
I mean, yeah, he's absolutely right. But like, I mean, also like, I don't know. One of the reasons I like this after the flip is because I don't really care who dies.
Yeah, at this point, anybody.
Because everyone's bad except for Alan. So, like, maybe him dying is sad, sure. But, like, Julia Stiles and Gunnar killed Esther.
Yeah.
So, like, they're not innocent, I guess is my point. And that's why I'm like, I can't wait to see how whoever kills whoever. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
It's just a great premise.
Absolutely. And Julia Stiles tries to poison her when making mac and cheese because Alan is going to the gallery the next day. She wants to go along. And I assume that they were going to make it look like she had died in her sleep or died in some other accidental way while he was away at the gallery.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they were drugging her with the mac and cheese for like that purpose, I thought.
Mm-hmm. But she takes it upstairs and she feeds it to her rat friend, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, I felt bad for that rat, man.
Yeah.
He just wanted some mac and cheese, some beanie weenies, man, or whatever. Like,
yeah,
it looked pretty good.
It actually looks really good.
Yeah.
I was like, that sounds awesome.
For like mac and cheese and like sausage. I mean, it was like a very basic, but it looked good.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Alan, the dad, comes to check on her and is like, yeah, I'm not crazy about your mom's cooking, but like, let's go down to the studio. Let's paint tonight. Okay, fine. Now, Julia Stiles is watching this happen.
Yeah.
And because she knows she's not a child, she then confronts her after Alan goes to bed and is like, oh, did you think he would want you? Like, this is insane. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to go upstairs and fuck my husband, just like rubbing it in. It's so bonkers cruel. It's like,
it's great, honestly. But I mean, it's not cruel. Like, I mean, Julia Stiles is a murderer.
Yes.
At least in this movie.
Right.
Outside of this movie, I'm not sure.
Not sure.
But she like really hates Esther, and it's so clear that like she is gonna kill her soon, if not immediately.
Yes.
And it's so fun because they both are just trying to kill each other the rest of the movie.
They're both trying to kill each other for the rest of the movie.
But I do love that she's like, I'm gonna go upstairs and fuck my husband.
But Esther goes up to her room, notices that her rat friend is dead from eating the poison.
Yeah.
And so she, the next morning, makes breakfast for everybody and makes a smoothie for Julia Stiles, who then drinks it under peer pressure from everyone and then dumps it into the sink, revealing that there was a dead rat inside.
So gross.
It's
you know
so
what else was gross? That the rat got sucked down the garbage disposal. Like, the rat deserved better. Like, come on.
Poor baby. Yeah.
I know.
Anyway, she now also realizes that she's going to have to spend a day with her mom and Gunnar, who both want to kill her.
Yeah.
And so she's like, please take me to the gallery. No, next time. And they're at the train station. He's like, why don't you go take this up to the platform? I'll be up with coffees. She sees them on the other side of the train platform. She goes around, so she goes behind them. And then she's about to push them onto the tracks.
Yeah.
When a man interrupts and kind of pushes her out of the way.
I mean, literally, just like she runs into that dude instead of her like mom and brother, or not mom and brother. So like it stops her ability to push them in. He's like, man, watch where you're going or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they turn around and they're like, wait, were you trying to kill us or whatever? And then that's when the dad comes up and he, everyone goes back to like sort of play acting.
Right. And they put the dad on his train and everyone's like, great. And they go to leave and she's like, you're fucking dead. You tried to kill me. You're fucking dead.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my God, Julia Stiles. So she grabs Julia Stiles' purse, grabs a pepper spray, pepper sprays Gunnar, and takes off and steals the car.
Yeah.
And my favorite part of this was that she turns on the radio and it's Maniac from Flashdance.
She's a maniac.
Maniac.
It's great.
It was great.
She puts on lipstick and is smoking a cigarette, and she looks 28. So I was like, that makes sense.
Incredible.
And then this cop pulls her over, and she immediately goes into, I'm gonna sex it up.
Yeah.
Because this cop's gonna be creepy. And then she rolls down the window and she's like, is there a problem, officer? And this lady cop is like, Esther, I assume.
I'm assuming you're Esther.
And you're like, busted, bitch.
Oh.
I thought that was awesome.
So they bring her home, but the cop reveals that she called Alan, the dad, as well.
Yeah.
So now Julia Stiles has a ticking time bomb of like what is happening with Esther while he's away.
Yeah, and he's no longer going to be in like New York City for a few days. He's like on his way back, you know?
Right.
I did like that she was like, why don't you just stay? I got everything under control. She's back at the house. She's fine. She's playing with Gunnar. It's going to be great. And he was like, no, I'm coming back. I'm so concerned. I want to come back. And she's like, all right, well, can you take a cab? Because like I got a lot to juggle right now.
Yeah, I've got my hands full over here.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
I thought that shit was real funny.
So she literally is like, as she's on the phone with him, they're trying to kill her. They're just like fighting her. And
she literally like covers the phone phone with her hand and
Right.
tells her son, go finish it.
Go finish
and
it.
like goes back to her husband, and he would have been like, go finish what?
Go finish what?
Like-
because they've like chased her out into the main like foyer, and they kick her down the stairs, and she's like not moving at the bottom of the stairs. And Julia Stiles is like, perfect. But that's when they like look back down the stairs and she's gone. And she's like, Gunner, go finish it.
Yeah.
Gunner chases her down into the studio where she just straight up crossbows him.
It's great because he's like, I got you cornered. You're fucked. I'm going to kill you now. And she's like, I'll be all right. And shoots him with the crossbow.
Yeah.
And then comes over and stabs him like 9 times with his own
his fencing sword.
Which I'm sure you could stab into somebody with enough force, but like those aren't notoriously sharp on purpose.
Well, it looks like she's broken it in half too because it's shorter.
Oh, maybe that's what did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not clear. You can't really see it. But what I really wanted was for her to be like, that's for real, Esther. Basically like, fuck you.
I know. I wanted to be like, hashtag Esther Justice.
Yeah.
But not yet because the mom's still alive.
Right. And she comes down.
It would have been cute if she said, I guess I just played too hard or something like that.
Oh.
Like, I want to give her like Jean-Claude Van Damme, like one-liners after kills for every movie
Yeah.
that are like childlike in nature.
I love it. I mean, same with like Mithrigan. Like I wanted Mithrigan to have, catchphrases.
Yes.
But who should walk in? Julia Stiles. And she's just like, oh my God. She's distraught over Gunner. And she's like, no, now it's fucking on. And a kitchen fight ensues.
Yeah. Because Julia Childs is the mom.
Yeah.
So, like, of course it's going to take place in the kitchen. And this is the scene where they're, like, fighting, like, rolling on the ground. And I'm like, God,
Yes.
Esther is as tall as Julia Stiles.
I did think it was funny that there was a burner on for no reason. I can only imagine that they fought up against the stove and it triggered the burner. But my favorite part in this this kitchen fight is when Julia Stiles throws what is clearly a dummy across the kitchen island.
I loved it. It is so funny because it's like, you know how when you throw a dummy, it kind of hangs in the air a little bit too long?
Yeah.
And that definitely happens as Julia Stiles throws this Esther-like dummy over the island. And only so she
funny.
can like stand up and like look over and it be gone.
Yeah. It was, incredible. But she chases her up to her room where she then climbs out the window onto the roof. Now it's a roof fight. And Julia Stiles still has the butcher knife from downstairs, but drops it on the roof. And they're hanging on the roof as the cab comes home. And the dad gets out of the cab and is like, oh my God, call the fire department because the house is now on fire because of that stove.
Yeah, because of the fight, really. The stove isn't like
Right.
defective or anything. Like they bumped it or whatever and it caught like the curtains on fire or some shit.
Right. He runs into the house.
He's like, oh my God, the house is on fire. We only have an hour and a half to escape. It's that big. Like it's a huge house.
It is that big. It's a castle.
Take note of all the major plot points that happen between the moment he arrives and sees the fire from outside and the last character leaves the house.
Right.
It's like 30 minutes of runtime.
It's like 30 minutes of runtime. And he runs into the house and then out of a window up onto the roof to save them. And now this was a really, really interesting point because I was like, is he going to save Esther and like choose her over the other because he thinks it's his daughter, or is an accident going to happen?
I kind of loved this who is he going to choose thing that like they were setting up, and
Right.
I'm very glad it played out the way he did because it does sort of seem like he was going to grab his wife's arm, and I mean Esther's hand is like up in the way, but he's like trying to grab his wife's,
Right.
and she just like slips and he can't grab her in time. So like I don't think he actually would have chosen Esther over his wife, but
I think he wanted to try and get both of them.
Same.
It just didn't work out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Trisha, Julia Stiles falls and he's like, oh my God. And then pulls Esther onto the roof and he's like hugging her like, oh my God, thank goodness you're home. And then she turns it into more of like a romantic hug and he's like, what is happening?
he also sees her teeth like because her flippers come out.
Her flippers come out and he's like, what? And she's like, I did it for her so we could be together. And he's like, what the fuck? Who the fuck are you? And then she pushes him off the roof.
Yeah, and she's like, oh, who the fuck am I? I am the inheritor of the estate. And she Sparta kicks him off the roof. I mean, she just pushes him.
Right.
But because it is a steep roof, and they're literally on a house on fire.
He did.
So she has precious little time to get out of there.
Yeah, so she goes back into the room and she literally like goes inside, cleans up, gets her stuff. Bummer about the paintings because they all burn. And then we cut to her in the therapist's office. They're like, the fire took everything. It's so tragic, as if she hasn't been through enough. What'll happen now? Well, we found a good adoption agency. I'm sure she'll find a home. Who wouldn't want to adopt her? And
that's the movie. So having seen the movie, having talked about the movie, what do you think about the movie Orphan, First Kill?
Great twist.
Yeah, I loved the twist, and it made it watchable. Like, if it had been more or less the same first movie, I'd have been like, this sucks, I hate it.
Yeah.
But because it was, obviously it's going to be similar, all the, like, Chucky movies are similar on some level because it's like a small thing killing a bunch of adults. But, like, I thought the twist on the premise, like, made it exciting and more fun, and I honestly dug the shit out of it. It was a little scary, mainly, like, the jump scare stuff at the very beginning, though. Like, the tension stuff later on was fine. But I kind of enjoyed it. Yeah. What did you think about it, Paige?
I liked it. I think without that twist, there's not much to it. Because if it is the same, it's not great. But once that twist happens, it's bonkers. And it changes the entire tone of the movie, where it really is, you're watching multiple villains try to kill each other. And I fucking loved that. So for me, I ended up really liking it. I don't know that I'll watch it again. Because it is a 45-minute slog to get to the really fun part of the movie.
I would definitely watch from the twist to the end, though.
Yeah, from the twist to the end is pretty great, though.
But, Paige, do you have any fun facts for us?
I do.
Well, here it is with your fun facts.
First
Orphan,
kill, fun
facts.
So some of the cast who were the same height as Isabelle Fuhrman, who plays Esther, while in frame, would have to wear tall platform shoes or stand on apple boxes to make her appear shorter, basically for forced perspective, because she is of average height.
Yeah, because she's an adult lady.
Right. One of the film's goals, because this is a prequel, was to cover up a much criticized plot hole in the first film, which was how exactly did Esther get from Estonia to an American orphanage without having been dropped off by anybody? Even with forged paperwork, she would not have been able to simply show up there. So this kind of closes that gap a little bit.
Fair enough.
Isabelle Fuhrman was 23 when filming this, which makes her closer to the age of Lena than when she appeared in the first film, when she had turned 11 during filming. So, like, in the first film, she was still basically a child. That's why she looks like a child.
She was a child, yeah.
Yeah, this one, not so much. They didn't use a lot of digital effects, mostly makeup and forced perspective, and then a body double for certain shots.
That body double was in a lot of shots, man. Like that
body double was in a lot of shots.
Yeah.
I don't think it's completely effective.
I would say it's not.
Yeah.
But I kind of like that.
I mean, once the bonkers flip happens, I forget all about how it's not effective. So, you know.
Same.
The record that plays in her room is The Glory of Love by Jimmy Durante, which is actually played considerable amount of times, a lot of times in the original Orphan. So it's kind of a little Easter egg.
Cool.
Similar to the first film, the poster's perfectly symmetrical, but this time with half of Esther's back mirrored with the addition of blood spatter on one of her shoulders. She is the only cast member from the original to return, which makes sense because it is a sequel and they all died.
Yeah, because she killed everybody.
Yep.
Kind of like this movie.
Kind of, yeah. Her doubles were actually two different children, Sadie Lee and Kennedy Irwin, who stood in for her when her face isn't shown from the back.
Okay.
The photo used for the missing girl, Esther, is a younger photo of Isabelle Fuhrman.
Oh, okay, cool.
So there's that. There are some holes still. The movie reveals basically, obviously, that she got to from Estonia to the USA by fleeing Russia. She claims to be Esther Albright, the missing daughter of the Albright family. However, her mother, Tricia, knows that Esther is dead, quickly sees through it. So that begs a question of how, in the original Orphan, which is 2 years later, she had Russian adoption papers and is said to be the sole survivor of the Sullivan family, who all died when their house is set on fire. It's possible for privacy reasons that they changed the name and kept it from the orphanage due to the sensitive nature of her abduction and suspicious circumstances, because no one in the fire is actually killed by the fire itself.
Interesting.
Not to mention the disappearance of the detective.
The detective just went on vacation, Paige. He emailed his sergeant or whatever. Like, they're not even worried about that guy yet.
Lena herself may have even faked the Russian paperwork to make it seem like she was illegally adopted from Russia. as suggested in Orphan, rather than being united for her own, like to her own family after a suspected abduction. I'll end on this one. This movie has a body count of 8 if you count the rat. And those are your fun facts.
And I do.
I do too.
And Paige, thank you so much for those fun facts. Let's talk a little bit about the box office. So I did find a estimated budget, but this is not like confirmed. But what do you think that budget was for Orphan First Kill?
Oddly enough, this is largely a single location movie. To be honest with you, it's mostly that house.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that this probably cost about 20 mil.
Paige, they did a little bit better than that.
Oh, good.
It was $8 million.
Oh, good job.
Yeah.
Good job, guys.
Yeah, which is great. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
But let's talk about how it did when it came out. So the movie came out the week of August 19th, 2022, and it was number 12 the weekend it came out. It was beat by many, many movies, the number one of which was Dragon Ball Super, Superhero, which I feel is a tad redundant. Number 2 was Beast. Number 3 was Bullet Train. And number 4 was Top Gun, Maverick. Number 5 was DC League of Super Pets. And then there were literally 7 other movies, one of which was Nope, Paige. There you go.
There you go.
And Bodies, both movies we've done. But Orphan First Kill came in at 12th in the theaters. It was only in 498 theaters the week it came out. So I was like, it didn't do great, but for only being in almost 500 theaters, it did okay.
Yeah.
But what do you think it brought in that first weekend?
Ooh, that first weekend, I feel like this was kind of a sleeper hit where it did okay, and then people found out it was good, and it did a lot better. So I'm going to say that first week it probably, especially against Nope and everything else, I think it probably only brings in maybe about 8 million.
Yeah, it brought in $1.7 million.
Ooh,
If
yeah.
it brought in 8 million, it would have been right below Bullet Train, which was third.
Okay. Oh, I loved Bullet Train.
I know Bullet Train is pretty great. But so Paige, it did get into more theaters.
Yeah.
But it didn't do better in consecutive weeks. It was never again even ranked. And honestly, it never got into more than 557 theaters.
Which is not a lot.
Yeah, it never again hit $1 million. So at the end of its 5-week run here in the States, it had only brought in $5.4 million, but it did pretty well internationally.
Sure.
So it did better in 2 different countries than it did in the U.S., those countries being Mexico, where it brought in $6.6 million, and Brazil, where it brought in $5.3 million. The United Kingdom also almost $3 million, France 2.5, Australia almost $2 million. So it actually brought in total worldwide $45.5 million. So it made money, just not here in the States.
Nice. Well, and then I think it really hit its stride when it went to streaming, because that was when I think everybody I know saw it.
Yeah, I think aside from maybe a little bit of a slow start for a 98-minute movie, this is one that's worth checking out because of the flip on the initial premise.
Yeah.
So I wish it had done better domestically, but I get it. But it did do well internationally, so it made its money back. I realized that she is not convincing as a 10-year-old person, who's supposed to be a 31-year-old, whatever. But I would watch 10 more of these.
I mean, I wouldn't, because they'd run out of flips. I feel like
that's true, I suppose. Yeah.
You can't really. This is the most you could possibly flip one of these. So,
but Paige, that's your box office. Do you want to hit him with that scary scale?
Sure. Our scary scale is a scale of 1 to 10 of how scary we found the movie today, with 1 being Ghostbusters, 10 being Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Todd, where are you at?
I'm going to give it a 3. There are some jump scares at the beginning that scared me. Once she gets to the house, though, it's just who's going to murder who first, and it was kind of fun.
Yeah, that's pretty fun.
What about you, Paige?
I'm going to give this a 1.
Yeah.
I don't find this particularly scary at all. I do find it fun once it becomes a who's going to kill who, but not really scary.
Yeah, I agree. I really wish a movie like this had the balls to show what it would actually be like if Julia Stiles was fighting a child, which is her just Sparta kicking her out of the kitchen down the stairs to death. But I mean, you can't do that, because then it's oh, well, I guess the thing that's scary is dead already and we're 5 minutes in. But it would be funny to see.
Yes.
Anyway, This week, Paige, the listeners made us watch Orphan First Kill. And honestly, guys, thank you. It was fun.
Yeah, thank you.
What are you going to make us watch as we kick off February and our new theme for that month?
Yeah, so it is February, so it is Black Horror Month, as we have done for many, many years. There's some good shit this year. We're going to kick it off with a movie that was released this year.
2025?
2024. Sorry, I keep forgetting it's a new year. But released in 2024 by Lee Daniels, it is The Deliverance. It's available on Netflix. You're welcome.
I think we did The Deliverance, right? In like that 70s movie with like
Very different movie. Similar titles, less pigs.
So guys, check out the movie The Deliverance, but the one you haven't seen yet.
The one you haven't seen yet.
For next week, when you listen to that episode, possibly.
This was one that I held off on watching because I heard wild shit about it. And I was
really?
like, we're gonna do this. And so I waited. So I'm excited to watch it finally.
Well, great. I guess we'll check it out for next week. And you should too.
Hey, Todd, do you have any reviews for us?
I do. I'm going to read probably a Spotify comment. Let me see. We actually did get quite a few Spotify comments on our it's the Species episode. So people had things to say.
More blood, more titties.
A lot of that kind of stuff. I also got one that I thought was pretty funny. And that was, y'all gonna make me listen to this podcast on Spotify for the comments alone. Love the show. That was from Vigar. And I say it that way because their name is Vigar and there's like 3 R's.
Got it.
I will read, however, this new 5-star review because I've been like forgetting to check Apple 5-star reviews. And so I'm going to try and get back in that habit. And we got one just a day ago. So it says from Markska, and they say, new favorite podcast. I just discovered your podcast on a friend's recommendation and I cannot stop binging it. Listening to your reviews is like watching and experiencing those movies all over again with fresh eyes. The observations and explanations you bring take the movies to a new level for me. 10 out of 10. Love, love, love. So Markska, thank you so much for that awesome 5-star review. And Vigar, thank you so much for that Spotify comment.
Thank you.
And if you want to have me read your 5-star review or Spotify comment, do one of those things and I'll do that. So guys, if you like this show but want to hear Paige and I talk about romantic comedies or just regular romantic movies, check out our other podcast, some might call it a sister podcast, called Romancing the Pod, where we do just that weekly. It's a lot like this show, but for romance and romantic comedies because Paige doesn't like them. So we make her watch them, just like you guys make me watch horror over here. But if you want to follow me, I am at Todd J. Awesome on all the social media. Paige is at Rampage Wesley on Instagram?
Yes, and TikTok.
And just Paige Wesley on Twitter because you got that before some CEO lady and she wanted it, but you wouldn't give it back. And I respect you for that.
Refuse.
Also, Paige
Suck it, other Paige Wesley.
Paige is also on another podcast. It's great. You should check it out. It's called Cult Podcast with Armando Torres, who is a wonderful person. And if you want to support this show, go to Patreon at patreon.com/horrorvirgin, where there are a lot of great levels and a lot of great things. We do the Patreon shout outs at the beginning of every episode. We do listener requests, stuff like that, bonus episodes. So you'll be getting all of that content, plus episodes a day early with no ads, and who doesn't love that? So sign up for the Patreon and get a lot of great stuff.
That's going to be it for us, you guys. I'm Paige.
And I'm your horror virgin, Todd.
Keep it ooky spooky.
Yeah, have an amazing week, guys. Bye. This movie's pretty weird, nerds. But that flip slapped.